out of my 8 students, only 1 student knew that he actually had a disability. I had this lesson prepared about, okay, we have autism, but, what are we gonna do this year? And I pulled up that word autism, and I had students who either could not pronounce it or never heard of it or couldn't express what does that mean to me. And you can still see that it's a struggle sometimes to express it. So it's been a whole year of me just saying that word out loud and them not being ashamed of it, and also saying it out loud to the parents so that they embrace it as something that they're not apologetic for, but something that can be empowering if we use it in the right way. Rena, what's the name of your disability?
I have autism.
Yeah, I thought of that sentence. I have autism. But that doesn't define you. There are other words that describe you. What are those 3 words?
Caring, kind, and friendly.
Ooh, caring, kind, and friendly. Those are some tough words. So it is important that you guys know your words. Yeah, I have autism, but there are other words that describe me. So you're going to need help at your job, but I want you guys to know and feel your words. You all are great. You are beyond great. So you have to say these words and know these words with so much pride, okay?
So advice I have for other teachers, I'll especially target early grades teachers, is to start having these conversations. Obviously they have to be age and grade appropriate, and sometimes disability appropriate, because students, for example, with intellectual disabilities, while they may be in 3rd grade, they also might not, maybe their reading level is still at the 1st grade level. So maybe some of the language you're using is not comprehensible at that point. It's not meeting them where they're at.
I'm here to talk about the things I'm good at and things I need help on.
Especially for students with intellectual disabilities, we think they might get hurt or they might be impaired if we were to tell them about what their disability is and what it means. We also, I think a lot of educators feel like at earlier ages, kids can't comprehend what it means, and so they don't tell kids. But really, I think they're doing a disservice, because if we don't build up that language, that understanding of what it means to have the disability and how you can go through life and what accommodations you need for that disability, kids are not going to be successful advocates outside of school. It's not okay to start teaching kids about their disability in high school, because there's not enough time to teach them all the things they need to know when they go into the real world.
Sometimes as parents and as educators, we're hesitant to tell a student they have a disability. We think it might affect their self-esteem, but in fact they already know that they have struggles, and so part of our job is to educate them.
J-Biz, how did you know about your IEP?
Well, my mom just told me that I have an IEP, but I didn't know it was about.
And Jamin, how did you know about yours?
My mom told me, and my teacher, Ms. Bob.
Yeah, and?
Ms. Rosanna. Oh yeah, last year, Ms. Rosanna.
The problem when you don't help the student begin to learn about themselves, when you don't help a youth who's aging into being an adult help to learn themselves what they need, is that we have someone coming to us who is an adult, coming for an adult service at RSA, who hasn't yet learned exactly what they need and how to advocate for themselves.
My disability is called intellectual disability. It makes it hard for me to read, write. It makes it hard for me to remember people's names or birthdays. My learning style is auditory. I learn best when I hear lots of noise, talk to myself, or hear the teacher talk.
I came 2 years ago and became his case manager, and by that time he was already in 10th grade. And so by the time I got to him, he was so far behind grade level, he wasn't challenged as much as he could have been.
Yes, it would have been helpful from an early age to know about my disability. Now that I know that I have the disability, I can somehow control it by myself.
Sometimes they get to a sense of empowerment, and that's the place I want them to be, to know that yes, they have a disability, but they can be successful.
No, I don't think my disability prevents me from doing anything in life. I am not a quitter, and I like to finish what I started.
I mean, this question of when do you start having this conversation with a child, it seems to me that from the time you're having IEP meetings, where a whole group of people is supposed to be planning with the student how the student can succeed, that they need to be involved in that conversation. I mean, I can tell you from sitting in IEP meetings as a social worker with someone or as a parent, that what happens in those meetings is confusing for adults. And so for a student to understand, it feels like it's just focused on getting something done as opposed to really planning how that student's going to learn. And so to take some time ahead of time with a student, any student who has an IEP, to talk with them about the reason that they're receiving these other services and what kinds of support it is that they're going to need, because they need to understand for themselves what kind of extra help they need in order to be successful, so that it's framed as how to help them succeed rather than the things that are wrong with them.
Initially, and I think like most people, you're very skeptical about, I'm going to tell students with cognitive and intellectual disabilities about their disability, and we're going to talk about that. How is that going to work? And in the end, it wasn't even until we did those parts of self-advocacy that I think it really became meaningful to them.
The advice I would give is start one piece at a time. The other piece of advice I would give is to know your students and know what they're capable of grappling with at that time. So if you're informing them that they have a disability while trying to get them to look at accommodations, that may just be too much for their plate.
One of the major ways that I have promoted self-awareness with my students is to just have conversation with them, to treat them as the important individuals that they are, and let them know that I'm listening, to make sure that they first realize how important it is to love themselves and to accept whatever disability that they have at this time.
You know, in my role in RSA, this issue comes up frequently of students not understanding their disability. And it comes up often as a frustration that the student comes to us and they don't really know they have a disability, they don't understand their disability. And I must say, for me, and I'm going to speak from both sides here in terms of as a parent of a student who has disabilities, as well as in my role at RSA, what I've talked to people about is that what's important is not so much that they can name what that disability is, but that they can understand what it is, like for any student, what their strengths, needs, you know, what's challenging for them, what's difficult, and what are the things that they can do well. To approach it that way, to begin by talking with the student about what are your strengths, what are the challenges you have, what are the courses that are harder for you, and what are the things that make it easier for you, what are the things that help you to be able to learn.
Preston, let's think back to the beginning of the year, or even to last year. Did you know you had an IEP, or what an IEP was?
No.
No. So what's changed for you now that you know that you have an IEP, and now that you know what is on an IEP? How does that change things for you?
I can I can really go into my IEP meeting and tell them what I need.
Yeah. And what about goals? Does that help you to set goals for yourself? You had a lot of goals in your presentation.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know about having a goal, do you think you can reach it?
No.
No. Throughout the self-advocacy curriculum, we really worked hard pairing words, so synonyms and antonyms of like strength, limitations, struggle, difficulty, with all their opposites. So it became quite natural for them to be like, you know, what's the opposite of limitation? And they would have something right in mind, and they would have a concrete example for their own life. So maybe a limitation was, and initially they weren't really academic. They were just kind of about things like, I think one lesson we talked about superheroes, because they're easy to talk about having all these strengths that we don't have. And so a limitation was, I'm not a superhero, so I can't fly. But a strength is I can do this. And going through that kind of process, then it was so much more natural to say, now talk about your limitations, because that was immediately followed, now talk about your strength.
We need to clean up our rooms. Then we're going to get ready for art at 10:49. All right, really quick before we start cleaning up our room, I'm coming around. I need your 3 words really quick like last time. What are your 3 words? I am
caring, helpful, and an animal lover.
Nice. You are?
I am
Sport.
okay.
Organized.
Organized.
Nice job. I'm coming from Ivy Mount, where students understand that they are at this school for a reason, and if they may not be able to express their disability, they know that they're different in some way, and so they have to be in this setting. So coming here and realizing, okay, my students really don't have a self-awareness, then to try to push those sort of academics on them where they're going to have to be able to advocate, Miss Perry, I need this to be successful, I had to backtrack. And we had to get to know us as a class and as individuals. And so this year, with the help of the curriculum that we got, the independent living, we really explored who are we as individuals. It went down from what do we want to cook this week? And so I took away all of the lessons I had planned on knife skills and instead focused on what do you like to eat? And if you like hamburgers, let's make it. If you want spaghetti, let's make it. And so students all year got to choose a recipe every other week, and we would vote on whose recipe would win, and they got to cook their favorite dish.
Here's another glass. Good job, Jamal.
It's very important for students to be aware of their wants, needs, their disabilities, their disability classification, so that they can begin to discuss with confidence and assuredness that, yeah, I have some differences, but this is how I deal with them.
This is my self-advocacy presentation. My disability is called Special Learning Disabilities. This means I have trouble with reading and focusing on my work. I can easily be distracted.
I would say almost 75% of my students chose their IEP PowerPoints, or they also did a career research presentation in the self-advocacy class as the thing they were most proud of, and those things also took the most work.
My disability is called intellectual disability. That means I have trouble focusing in school and spelling out words. My disability makes it hard to understand work in class.
I think it's important to have a community aspect wherein students go on different field trips or community-based experiences for their self-advocacy development, because they need real-world practical situations where they can apply the academic skills they're learning in the classroom. Without that, there's a huge disconnect, and especially for our students with intellectual disabilities, they have a difficult time generalizing. And so they need real life context for them to practice these skills in order to be effective self-advocates.
Okay.
We have a classroom business, and it's typically incredibly busy down there because we are serving the entire school population. So in the beginning, my approach was, okay, you guys, you just have to ignore it. You have to just, be patient with them. They're still learning. And instead, we flipped it on them. What are some things that we need them to do? So the students, after our classroom business, we would make a list of what do we need our customers to do so that we can do our jobs well. So that's shifted the thinking that we shouldn't be the ones just adjusting ourselves, but we should also expect people around us to adjust for us. Remember, again, we were talking about people with autism, especially in this class. We are all different, right, Jonathan? So we're all different. So remember, we have three students with iPads, but we have Darius and Jamal who will also have iPads, but they also will need to have more breaks than you all. Devon, you can work all day and be okay. Lena, you can work all day and be okay. But Jamal and Darius will need snacks, okay? So, Darius, how do you ask for a snack? Eyes on Miss Perry. How do you ask for a snack? Can I have...
Okay.
All right, let's do it again. Can I...
Yeah, cookie. Banana. Photo.
Please.
B.
Good. So they're going to ask for a snack break, okay? So this is good work behavior. Devon, read your next to your last one.
Listen to music.
Listen to music, okay? So let's say, for instance, you're feeling frustrated. Can you ask to listen to music to help you calm down?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good strategy?
Yeah.
Does anyone know which student this would be good for?
Jeremy?
You guys know each other so well. Yes, this is perfect for Jeremy, but anyone can use it.
It's extremely important for students to have an ownership of learning and being able to articulate to others what they are capable of, and so that they're not just seen for their disability, but they are seen for their abilities as well. They're able to say, these are my strengths, but I do have some weaknesses, and here they are, and here's what I'm doing about them. These are the goals that I've set towards mastery, and here's what I need in the classroom and in a testing accommodation situation that will help me be the best me that I can be. Next year in the middle school, we actually work on a bit more on accommodations. So figuring out what you need in the classroom to help you be successful. Do you guys have any ideas about some of the accommodations that you would need? What do you use in the classroom to be successful?
A computer to take my work up.
Well, I've been doing this year. Like, I've been copying down, like, taking notes and everything for math. And when I have a test, I can always bring my math book to help me on some of the problems. I want to continue doing that.
Let's talk about a need. What do you need to get to achieve that goal?
I would need like extra time to read.
Yeah, extra time to read.
And to do like extra time to like finish my work.
Definitely. So when you have this in your IEP, and this is why it's so important for us to make this now, is that your teachers are required by law to provide you these things that you need. So it's pretty cool, right? I didn't expect them to be as excited about when they learn something. I think we did an activity about knowing your learning styles, and at the end of that, Preston's just face when he was like, you mean I can tell teachers that I need visual representations of things that we're learning? I was like, yeah, you can do that. And he was just so genuinely like a huge weight had been taken off his shoulders, and I didn't expect that kind of reaction.
Let's come back from the very, very, very beginning of the year and think about a word that we talked about that means all about me. Raise your hand if you remember our word that means all about me.
Identity, all about me.
Very good. Can we all say that together?
Identity, all about me.
Very good. Identity, all about me. And so when we created these identity boxes, what did we get a chance to do?
We get to figure out who we are, and we get to figure out who we are, and what do we look like?
What we look like, what we act like, the things that make us feel good about ourselves. So here, Jeremy shows us on the outside, he has all of his sports people, but then on the inside, the implicit, you have your watch. We all know we want nice things, but what is the quote that you have? The quote. What are the words that you have above that watch?
Friends for life.
Friends for life. Is that something that's important for you in life?
So what's the most important thing you want people to know about you?
That I am a leader, I am active, I'm an athlete, and I'm smart.
I have many talents, like drawing and athletics.
I want people to know that I have a bright future, and I'm a strong leader, and I can grow and have strength.
The one pager, which I love because I can go to my school or to my friends and give them my paper and be like, oh, these are my interests, this is what I need to be successful, my preference, my strength. And they understand that, and they help me with that. When sometimes I forget, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I need. And my teacher especially, that I show them this, and it makes me happy because they know what I need already, and I don't need to be repeating them over and over again.
Fine. Jonathan, eyes on who? All right, are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Darius, eyes on Devon. Devon, what's the name of your disability?
I have autism.
But?
But 3 words that describe me.
And what are those?
Computer whiz, thoughtful, and persistent.
Wait, what was that third word?
Persistent.
That's a tough word. What does that word mean?
Never give up.
You never give up? What do you mean never give up? Even if something's hard?
Or too very hard.
Or too very hard, you never give up. I think what I've challenged my administrators to do and central office to do is to really hold me accountable for teaching my students the skills they need to be independent thinkers and to be as independent as they possibly can.
The way that we do certain things is simply a reflection of our diversity as a person, and that if we can find a way to hone those skills as a person with a disability, we're making our families and our communities better in the long term, simply because there is strength in diversity of the abilities that we have.
I don't shy away from the word disability, and I actually don't have a problem with the word disability because disability doesn't define me. I define disability. And so as such, I don't really have a problem with the fact that someone uses the word disability because I know that that is not all that encompasses me. Instead, I'd like to use it as an opportunity to share with them what my disability is, but who I am beyond my disability.
My students are going to be presented with so many challenges, academic, out in the community, in a work setting, and being able to, one, understand and have that awareness, I don't get this problem, and two, to be able to ask for help and not be embarrassed are critical skills you have to have. Without those two skills, I can't really teach them successfully.
In my experience, it is extremely helpful when special needs students can advocate for themselves. It allows the teacher to cater the learning experience to the student. When a student is able to advocate for the accommodations they require, certain things that will help them access the curriculum better, it allows the teacher to really tailor the teaching experience, to tailor the learning environment, to allow that student to achieve the same goals as his or her peers. It's proof that, that when our kids take the transition courses that they're actually learning how to approach others about their disability, because I am seeing students come to me more and more.
How confident are you that you can tell your teachers about what you need and what your goals are?
On the first day of school, I would tell them.
That's how confident you feel that on the first day of school, right when you meet them, you can tell them exactly what you need and what your goals are? And how helpful do you think that will be to them?
They would know why it probably takes me a longer time to do other stuff.
Yeah. And is it helpful to you?
Yes.
Yeah, why?
So I can keep my grades up.
Keep those grades up.
We see students becoming more confident in the way they approach a problem. We see students changing from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, whereby they're no longer saying, I can't do this, my disability stops me.
Specific examples of students taking risk are Lena's and Calvin's and Jeremy's, who are now taking the metro to school. That's a huge risk. There are 3 autism classrooms here, and my students are labeled as being the most severe. But what's been really awesome about my students is of those 3 classes, despite them being in an inclusion setting and mine and self-contained, we're the only class where the students are, 3 of my students are travel trained and able to take the metro or the bus from school to home independently.
I think one of the most proud moments that I've had since we did this is something that was not me teaching them anything, but something that they did. We were in the library, and another student that received special education was sitting in the library, and he asked me, he said, "Mr. Custer, what class is this that you teach?" And I was about ready to be fairly dismissive because we had to move to our classroom and the bell was going to ring. And before I could say anything, the guys in my class just jumped up and started talking about self-advocacy to another student with special needs, and they were so animate and articulate, and it was just this beautiful thing where you have this spontaneous conversation and these students are just like ready to testify about what this is all about to another student who they may or may not know has special needs as well. That was very cool, and to me it showed that they had really internalized what we had learned, and it was a part of them and something they were proud of.
You know, I want to say for students and adults who don't have special needs, it may seem very small to us, but for students, something as simple as moving closer to the whiteboard or getting a visual checklist could really be the difference between a student excelling in a class and a student just kind of falling to the wayside.
Good job, David.